Sorry for the shaky video. I didn't have my phone so it was like a spur of the moment video as it's carnival weekend.
It's 84, 84. 2 and 8, 28. 1 and 8, 18. 8, 0, 80. 2 and 7, 27. 5 and 4, 54. 1 low, number 10. 5 and 8, 58. 7 and 4, 74. 88, or the 8's 88. 4 and 3, 43. 6 and 8, 68. On 68, 1704, bottom line anymore. 1 and £10, and we're on to 2 nights. There's 7 and 8, 78. 5 and 7, 57. 8 and 9, 89. 6 and 7, 67. 11, or the 1's 11. 33, or the 3's 33. 3 and 8, 38. 22, or 2's 22. 1 and 3, 13. 4 and 2, 42. 8 on its own, number 8. 1 and 5, 15. 4 and 1, 41. 7 and 9, 79. 3 and 2, 32. 7 and 1, 71. 7 and 3, 73. 5 and 3, 53. 3 and 4, 34. 7, 0, 70. 2 and 9, 29. 3 on its own, number 3. 8 and 1, 81. 7 and 5, 75. 2 and 6, 26. 6 and 3, 63. 4 on its own, number 4. 5 on its own, number 5. On number 5, 1553. So the middle line said he thought. 1 minute £15, out we're on to the house. Do 1 and 6, 16. 7 and 2, 72. 7 on its own, number 7. 5 and 1, 51. 1 on its own, number 1. 6 on 1, 61. 2 on its own, number 2. 5 and 2, 52. 77 or 7, 77. 1 and 9, 19. 6 and 4, 64. 6 and 2, 62. 4 and 9, 49. 4 and 8, 48. 7 and 6, 76. 44, what a 4's 44. 8 and 5, 85 on 85. Chicken 1538 is a good full house any time. 1 winner, £50. Well done to you. That page is closed, turning over. Next page is blue in colour. We'll look for the 1 line and your first number. It's 1 and 3, 13. 2 and 5, 25. 1 and 2, number 12. 6 and 7, 67. 7 and 1, 71. 2, 0, 20. 6 and 2, 62. 8 and 3, 83. 22, or 2 is 22. 44, or the 4 is 44. 5 and 2, 52. 1 and 9, 19. 3 and 2, 32. 8 and 9, 89. 7 and 5, 75. 5 and 3, 53. You're 53, 1550. Middle line, any sir. 1 minute, £10, and we're on to 2 lines. We have 8 and 7, 87. 4 and 6, 46. 6 and 3, 63. 6 and 1, 61. 55 and the 5, 55. 9, 90. 88 or the 8, 38. 7, 70. 1 and 5, 15. 5 and 4, 54. 3, 30. 6 and 5, 65. 4 row, 40. 1 and 6, 16. 7 and 3, 73. 5 0, 50. Turn 8, 28. 7 and 6, 76. 6 on its own, number 6. 3 and 1, 31 or 31. 1 5 4 1. Top and bottom lines any server. 1 minute £15 and we're on to the house. Here's 6 and 4, 64. 66 or 66. 4 1, 41. 33 on the freeze, 23. 9 on its own, number 9. 5 and 6, 56. 5 and 1, 51. 8 and 4, 84. 5 and 9, 59. 3 and 4, 34. 3 and 5, 35. 5 and 7, 57. 7 and 2, 72. 4 and 8, 48. 2 on 1, 21. On 21, 1550 is a good full house, any server. One winner, £50. Well done to you.
A breakdown.
Page is closed, as you can put those books to one side and up on the red heart. We're going to double your prize money. Nice clear now, shouts, press your claim buttons in plenty of time, and all other noise to them, please, so you don't disturb the other players. Thank you for the house, your first number is 7 on its own, number 7. 4 on its own, number 4. 3 and 1, 31. 3 and 5, 35. 1 on its own, number 1. 33 on the 3s, 23. 3 0, 30. 3 on its own, number 3. 2 and 3, 23. 22 or 2s, 22. 1 and 9, 19. 2 and 7, 27. 9 on its own, number 9. 3 and 2, 32. 2 and 4, 24. 2 0, 20. 2 on its own, number 2. 1 and 8, 18. 2 and 5, 25. 1 and 6, 16. 11 on the ones, 11. 1 and 5, 15 on 15.
Number 5, a long time.
1 is a good house.
Number 5.
0, also a good house. Any server. 2 winners share the full house, £25 each. Well done. Okay, put those tickets on one side and bring forward your large red safe cracker flyer. So, prize me 10 for 9, 15 for 2 lines, £100 in full house. Nice clear shout. Your first number is 6 on its own, number 6. 4 and 2, 42. 2 and 6, 26. 3 on its own, number 3. 6 0, 60. 8 and 7, 87. 8 and 4, 84. 8 and 2, 82. 6 and 4, 64. 1 on its own, number 1. 9 on its own, number 9. 7 and 8, 78 on 78. 1 5 7.
You didn't want 13 already?
Any further?
Didn't you want 13 before?
1 minute £10 and we're on to 2 lines. There's 6 and 8, 68. 6 on 1, 61. 55 on the 5, 55. 3 on 1, 31. 1 and 6, 16. 5 and 3, 53. 6 and 3, 63. 7 and 2, 72. 2 and 4, 24. 9 0, 90. 1 and 5, 15. 4 and 5, 45. 4 and 7, 47. 33 on the freeze, 23. 8 and 3, 83. 5 and 7, 57. 8 and 6, 86. 7 and 3, 73. 5 and 1, 51. 7 and 4, 74. 5 and 6, 56. 7 and 9, 79. 44, with the 4s, 44, 1, 44, 1, 7, 4, 8. Top and bottom lines, any further. 1 minute, £15, and we're on to the house.
Numbers 11, 28.
With 22, or 2 is 22. 6 and 9, 69. 66, or 6 is 66. 2 and 3, 23. 1 and 2, number 12. 1 and 7, 17. 1 and 8, 18. 4 and 3, 43. 1 and 4, 14. 3 and 5, 35. 88, or the 8 is 88. 4 and 8, 48. 1 no, number 10. 7 0, 70. 7 and 1, 71. 77, or 7 is 77. 8 and 1, 81 on 81, 1.31 is a good full house, any sir. 1 winner, £100, well done to you. That page is closed, let's turn over, and your next page is green in colour. Looking for the 1 line, your first number is 8 on its own, number 8. 6 and 9, 69. 7 and 1, 71. 4 and 1, 41. 7 and 2, 72. 1 and 5, 15. 8 and 4, 84. 8 and 7, 87. 66, or 60, 66. 2 and 9, 29. 5 and 8, 58. 7 and 5, 75. 33, or the 3 is 33. 2 and 1, 21 on 21, 1.49. Good top line, any further. 1 minute, £10, and we're on to 2 lines.
24, 21, 24.
With 9 on its own, number 9.
So you want 24 for the 2 lines?
22, or 2 is 22.
You want 24 for the 2 lines?
3 on its own, number 3. 3 and 1, 31. 8 and 6, 86. 4 on its own, number 4. 6 and 7, 67. 4 and 8, 48. 2 and 3, 23. 1 and 3, 13. 7 and 8, 78. 2 and 8, 28. 2 and 6, 26. 3 and 7, 37, or 37.
16.
Was that a shout to my left? No, okay. Still looking for 2 lines,
Yeah.
37, 6, 56. 3 and 2, 32. 7 and 6, 76, or 76, 1541. Top and middle lines, any further. 1 minute, £15, and we're on to the house. It's 6 on its own, number 6. 3 and 9, 39. 5 and 3, 53. 6, 0, 60. 7 and 9, 79. 4 and 5, 45. 3 and 5, 35. 8 and 2, 82. 4 and 7, 47. 3 and 8, 38. 55, or the 5 is 55. 6 and 8, 68. 1 and 4, 14. 1 and 2, number 12. 6 and 2, 62. 1 on its own, number 1 on number 1, 1795. Good full house, any further. 1 winner, £100. Well done to you. That page is closed, we'll turn over, and your next one is purple in colour. Let's start you off with the 1 line, your first number. It's 5 and 1, 51. 5 on its own, number 5. 7 and 9, 79. 5, 0, 50. 1 and 9, 19. 3 and 9, 39. 8 and 3, 83. 5 and 2, 52. 3 and 6, 36. 5 and 4, 54. 4 and 1, 41. 8 and 7, 87. 4 on its own, number 4. 1 on its own, number 1. 4 and 8, 48 on 48, 1556. A good bottom line, any server. 1 with a £10, and we're on to 2 lines. There's 6 on its own, number 6. 70, 70. 44 and a 4 is 44. 6 and 7, 67. 6 and 2, 62. 5 and 9, 59. 7 and 6, 76. 22 or 2 is 22. 77 or 7 is 77. 2 and 6, 26. 7 and 1, 71. 4 and 5, 45. 1 and 3, 13. 5 and 6, 56. 55 and a 5 is 55. 4 and 6, 46. 2 row 20. 9 on its own, number 9 on number 9, 1876. Top and bottom lines, any server. 1 minute £15, and we're on to the house. 3 and 7, 37. 8 oh 80. 1 and 7, 17. 6 oh 60. 4 and 7, 47. 7 and 5, 75. 8 and 4, 84. 2 and 9, 29. 2 and 1, 21. 2 on its own, number 2. 3 and 8, 38. 8 and 5, 85. 1 and 2, number 12. 3 and 2, 32. 6 and 9, 69. 4 and 2, 42. 2 and 4, 24. 1 and 6, 16. 8 on its own, number 8. 1 and 5, 15 on 15. 1881 is a good full house, any server. 1 winner, £100. Well done to you. That page is closed, turning over. Next page is brown in colour. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, second half tickets are on sale, available book sales. You can upgrade those packages and maximise your chance of winning on the second half. 18 tickets for £12, 36 tickets for £18, and 54 tickets is only £24, which is a bargain and a half, as we've got 2 lots of £500 houses, and that final house is at £1,000. Right now though, ladies and gentlemen, let's look for the one line on the brown page. Your first number is 5 on its own, number 5. 1 and 2, number 12. 7 and 4, 74. 2 and 1, 21. 5 0, 50. 1 and 3, 13. 5 and 3, 53. 1 on its own, number 1. 2 and 6, 26. 4 and 3, 43. 4 0, 40. 4 and 6, 46. 6 and 4, 64. 5 and 7, 57. 5 and 2, 52. 8 and 9, 89. On 89, 1794. Bottom line anymore. 1 minute £10, and we're 1 to 2 lines. With 5 and 8, 58. 88 or the 88. 4 and 8, 48. 4 on its own, number 4. 7 and 1, 71. 5 and 4, 54. 8 and 3, 83. 4 and 2, 42. 44 and a 4 is 44. 2 on its own, number 2. 2 and 3, 23. 7 and 2, 72. 8 and 1, 81. 6 and 8, 68. 6 and 1, 61 on 61, 1506. To a middle lines at any server.
They want 2, 8 and 37.
And we're on to the house. With 8 and 6, 86. 1 and 7, 17. 22 or 2s, 22. 11 on the 1s, 11. 8 and 5, 85. 3 and 8, 38. 6 and 2, 62. 6, 0, 60. 4 and 1, 41. 2 and 4, 24. 7, 0, 70. 3 on its own, number 3. 2, 0, 20. 8 and 2, 82. 6 and 5, 65. 3 and 7, 37. 66 or 60, 66. 9, 0, 90. 6 and 9, 69 on 69. We've got shouts. Looks like I've got paper claim to my right and electronic at the back. 1556. That's a good full house. And I'll do the whole purple, please. Looking for the full house on the brown page of your main event book.
Somebody on books.
Mm.
And that's a good full house as well. Any server. 2 winners, £50 each. Well done, both of you. That page is closed. Turn over. Next one is yellow in colour. By the way, straight off the yellow page will be your party special. So make sure that the little ticket handy is right after this. Lucky for the 1 line. Your first number is 6 and 2, 62. 3 and 4, 34. 6 on its own, number 6. 5 and 8, 58. 8 and 3, 83. 7 and 8, 78. 1 and 4, 14. 3 and 5, 35. 7 on its own, number 7. 5 on its own, number 5. 11 or the 1s, 11. 2 and 9, 29. 9, 0, 90. 6 and 1, 61 on 61. Heard you, but I can't see you. If you're on paper, give me a wave. For electronic, double tap that claim message. Where are you? There we go. 1764 coming through in the middle line. Any further? 1 minute, £10, and we're on to 2 lines. With 4 and 2, 42. 4 and 6, 46. 8 and 7, 87. 5 and 6, 56. 55 on the 5s, 55. 2 and 5, 25. 1, no, number 10. 6 and 7, 67. 7 and 4, 74. 4 and 5, 45. 7 and 3, 73. 4 on its own, number 4. 88, or the 888 on 88 at the back, 1502. Middle bottom lines, do we have any further? 1 minute, £15, and we're on to the house. We have 8 and 6, 86. 8 and 5, 85. 4 and 9, 49. 4 and 8, 48. 7 and 6, 76. 5 and 7, 57. 3 on its own, number 3. 6 and 4, 64. 33 on the 3s, 23. 1 and 3, 13. 7 and 2, 72. 9 on its own, number 9. 2 and 1, 21. 6 and 5, 65. 4 and 3, 43. 5 and 1, 51. 4 and 1, 41. 3 and 6, 36. 8 on its own, number 8. 22 or 2s, 22. 1 and 6, 16. 2 and 8, 28. 8 and 2, 82. 7 and 1, 71. 6, 0, 16. 2 and 3, 23. 66 or 6066 on 66, 1794 and 1560. Any further? 2 winners should a full house. Well done, both of you. And pages closed, ladies and gentlemen. Put your main event book just to one side and bring forward your party time special. There's a small square colour ticket with a blue background. Now it's a straight full house game with £60 on board, but quality 40 calls or less for the extra £10,000. Nice clear shout, so look for the house, and when you're free, I'll let, I believe there's some change wanting over to my right. Your first number is red number 1. Believe 54. Believe 59. Red number 6. Yeah, 29. Blue 60. Blue 57. Red number 2. Blue 42. White 75. Red number 7. Yeah, 38. Red number 5. Yeah, 33.
He's got 2 numbers.
White 62. Blue 46. Blue 55. Blue 53. Red 16. Yeah, 23. Blue 45. White 71. White 63. Yeah, 32. Blue 52. White 69. White 68. White 73. Red number 3. Blue 43. Yeah, 28. White 66. Blue 50. Blue 41. Red number 4. Yeah, 26. Blue 48. Red number 12. White 78. Blue 51. Red 11. Yeah, 31. Yeah, 22. Blue 58. Yeah, 21. Blue 44. White 70. Red 18. Blue 56. Yeah, 35. Yeah, 37. Yeah, 25. Yeah, 24. Red 19. Blue 49. White 76. Yeah, 36. On yeah, 36. And it's coming through 1713. It's a lovely house. Do we have any further? Happy 52 nights, £100 for those first 2 full houses. Nice clear loud shouts, press your claim buttons in plenty of time, and all other noise please. Mobile phones off side of the street so you don't disturb the other players. Thank you. Looking for the 1 line on the till page with your first number. Is 6 and 969. 3 on its own, number 3. 5050. 6 and 8 68. 3 and 7 37. 2 and 6 26. 4 and 1 41. 11 or the ones in 11. 4 and 3 43. 1 and 6 16. 7 and 2 72. 2 and 1 21. 1 and 7 17. 7 on its own, number 7. 44 on the 4s 44. 8 and 9 89 on 89. 1503 the bottom line, 1870. Middle line, any further. 2 winners for the line prize, and move on to 2 lines. With 4 row 40. 7 0 70. 1 and 8 18. 8 on its own, number 8. 6 on its own, number 6. 2 and 5 25. 5 and 4 54. 4 and 6 46. 5 and 6 56. 6060. 2 on its own, number 2. 2 and 8, 28. 3 and 9, 39. 4 and 2, 42. 8 and 3, 83. 6 and 3, 63. 5 and 2, 52. 5 on its own, number 5. 7 and 4, 74. 4 and 5, 45. 5 and 8, 58. 1 and 5, 15. 1 and 9, 19. 4 and 9, 49. 88 on the 8's 88 on 88, 1513. So we've been around any server. 1 minute 15.
3075.
And 1 to the house. Bid 2 and 3, 23. 6 and 7, 67. 8 and 6, 86. 6 and 5, 65. 8 and 4, 84. 4 and 7, 47. 1 and 3, 13. 2 low, 20. 7 and 3, 73. 66 or 66 on 66, 1504. Good full house anymore. 1 winner, £100. That page is closed, let's turn over. Next page is orange in colour. We'll look for the one line with your first number. It's 6 and 9, 69. 5 and 2, 52. 5 and 1, 51. 4 and 2, 42. 3 and 2, 32. 2 and 3, 23. 6 and 2, 62. 4 and 9, 49. 5 on its own, number 5. 5 and 9, 59. 1 and 4, 14. 6 and 8, 68. 80, 80 on 80 or 1864. Top 9 anymore. 1 minute £10 and we're on to 2 lines. 3 and 4, 34. 7 and 6, 76. 3 and 7, 37. 4 and 5, 45. 9 and 19. 3 and 1, 31. 2 and 7, 27. 2 and 6, 26. 6 and 4, 64. 7 and 5, 75. 5 and 4, 54. 1 on its own, number 1. 7 and 3, 73. 55 on the 5's 55. 2 and 9, 29. 7 and 1, 71. 4 on its own, number 4. 2 on its own, number 2. On number 2, 1514. Top and bottom lines anymore. 1 minute £15 and we're on to the house. There's 88 or the 8's 88. 3 and 5, 35. 11 on the 1's 11. 4 and 8, 48. 3 0, 30. 2 and 1, 21. 8 and 2, 82. 7 and 4, 74. 7 and 2, 72. 1 and 6, 16. 4 and 1, 41. 5 and 6, 56. 8 and 9, 89. 22 or 2, 22. 2 and 4, 24. 77 or 7, 77. 8 and 7, 87. 5 and 3, 53. 7 0, 70. 6 and 1, 61. 8 and 1, 81. 8 and 6, 86. 5 and 7, 57. 6 and 3, 63. 7 and 9, 79, and shout on 79. We're checking 1 and 7 and 3, 6 as a good full house. Did we have any server? 1 winner, £100. Well done to you. That page is closed, turning over. Next page is grey in colour, and your price money's changed. We have got 15 for 9, 30 for 2 lines, and £500. Your next 2 full houses. Best of luck, we'll start the line, and your first number is 3 and 9, 39. 5 and 4, 54. 22, 1, 2, 22. 6 on 1, 61. 4 and 7, 47. 1 and 4, 14. 7 and 4, 74. 6 and 8, 68. 6 and 9, 69. 8 and 3, 83. 7 and 1, 71. 8 and 4, 84. 7 and 3, 73, and a shout on 73. 1520, bottom line 1511, top line, do we have any further? 2 winners at the line prize, and we're on to 2 lines. With 8 and 1, 81. 4 and 8, 48. 2 and 5, 25. 5 and 7, 57. 8 and 5, 85. 5 and 8, 58. 5 and 9, 59. 4 and 40. 4 and 2, 42. 7 and 2, 72. 4 and 6, 46. 3 and 30. 1 and 6, 16. 7 and 5, 75. 4 and 1, 41. 6 and 60. 2 and 20. 3 and 1, 31. 7 and 6, 76. 7 on its own, number 7. 5 and 50. 1 and 3, 13. 6 on its own, number 6. 2 and 1, 21. 8 and 2, 82. On 82, 1844, middle and bottom lines anymore. 1 winner, £30, and we're on to the house. With 8 and 6, 86. 6 and 3, 63. 1 and 8, 18. 1 on its own, number 1. 2 on its own, number 2. 3 and 7, 37. 2 and 9, 29. 5 and 2, 52. 6 and 7, 67. 3 and 4, 34. The lovely shout on 1569. Any further? Single winner, £500. Well done to you. That page is closed, turning over. Next page is pink in colour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we start the pink page, let you know your first number. It's 5 and 7, 57. 2 and 9, 29. 88, or the 8, 88. 3 and 2, 32. 2 and 3, 23. 66, or 60, 66. 6 and 60. 7 and 70. 1 and 3, 13. 5 and 3, 53. 6 and 7, 67. 4 and 6, 46. 8 and 3, 83. 3 and 9, 39. 5 and 2, 52. 1 and 9, 19 on 19, 1545. Bottom line, any server. You paper claim? Okay, we think we've got a paper claim on the end there. I need that whole cab number. Looking for the 1 line on the pink page. So looking for the 1 line, pink page, 19, your last number called. And that is a good top line anymore. 2 winners, 750 each, and we're on to 2 lines. With 4 and 9, 49. 5 and 9, 59. 4 and 3, 43. 44, and the 4 is 44. 8 and 7, 87. 3 and 6, 36. 3 0, 30. 3 and 8, 38. 4 and 5, 45. 8 and 1, 81. 5 and 8, 58. 1 and 6, 16. 7 and 4, 74. 5 and 4, 54. 8 and 4, 84. 8 0, 80. 2 0, 20. 7 and 9, 79. 4 and 2, 42. 1 and 2, number 12, and a shout on number 12. 1807. Middle bottom lines, any sir. Single winner, £30. Well done. And we're on to the house. 5 on its own, number 5. 7 and 3, 73. 7 and 1, 71. 8 on its own, number 8. 7 and 2, 72. 22 or 2 is 22. 55 on the 5 is 55. 11 on the 1 is 11. 5 and 1, 51. 4 and 7, 47. 7 and 8, 78. 4 0, 40. 3 on its own, number 3. 9 0, 90. 8 and 6, 86. 3 and 7, 37. 7 and 5, 75. 2 and 1, 21 or 21. 1 at 7, 1, 4. 1, 5, 4, 5 at any sum. 2 winners, £250 each. Well done. That page is closed, turning over to the final page of November. And this one is a lilac in colour. Prize for the exchange, that full house is now fantastic. £1,000. Also, your cash builder stamps in play. Full up in 45 calls or less at Lucky Stamps for an extra £100 on top. Lucky for the line, here we go. There's 9 on its own, number 9. 1 on its own, number 1. 3 and 4, 34. 6 0, 60. 4 on its own, number 4. 8 and 5, 85. 8 and 2, 82. 5 and 6, 56. 7 and 8, 78. 1 and 9, 19. To my right on 1807. Good top line, any sir. 1 minute, £15, and we're on to 2 lines. There's 7 and 1, 71. 3 and 6, 36. 4 0, 40. 5 and 9, 59. 5 0, 50. 6 and 9, 69. 6 and 1, 61. 1 and 7, 17. 3 and 1, 31. 7 on its own, number 7. 77 or 7, 77. 4 and 2, 42. 2 and 3, 23. 3 and 5, 35. 7 and 9, 79. 7 and 2, 72. 4 and 8, 48. 1 and 5, 15. 44, and the 4 is 44. 5 and 2, 52. 1 and 6, 16. 9 0, 90. 2 on its own, number 2. 3 on its own, number 3. 2 and 5, 25. 11 on the 1's 11. 4 and 6, 46 on 46. 1 at 8, 6, 4. Middle bottom lines anymore. That's
Oh, they want 22?
2 lines. So
They want 22.
22.
Yeah.
and we've still got 8 numbers left to go. Let's see if we can have a jackpot winner to the house. With 4 and 1, 41. 5 and 4, 54. 3 and 8, 38. 22.
The same person.
22. Alex, could you check if they got the stamp?